Being a millionaire isn't all it's cracked up to be, you know. To be honest, it's quite annoying. People constantly beg and try to charm you out of your millions. Sometimes people even go as far as to try and rob you for your money, literally. It's out of frickin' control, I tell you what. I don't even have any real friends. Any friends that I have, I bought them off eBay along with some beer. I guess I should explain some things. Okay, fine, I will. I own a massive oil company up in Rikers Field. The company is extremely profitable and makes around $1 million every single minute. My company was for the longest time the most profitable oil plantation in the entire USOA. Because of how much money my company generates in a daily quarter, I've tried investing my money in the local bank. But after a while, they started to refuse my money as I was clogging up their vaults. So instead, I have to store my millions in a massive vault in my very own mansion. Yet, I live in a super mansion with a room for a view. I'm so rich, I even own a swimming pool inside of a swimming pool. That just shows you how rich I am, don't it, friend? I also own a private jet, my own clothesline, and 2 tickets to Universal Studios. Cha-ching! With all the money my company makes, as you might expect, a lot of people try to scam me out of my millions. One time, 2 charity collectors named Dr. Bunsen Honeydew and Beaker came to ask me for a donation to the Winnie the Pooh Charity Foundation. What would I put you down for? Dr. Honeydew asked as he rested his face upon my desk while I was trying to do some important paperwork. Nothing! I yelled angrily as Dr. Honeydew asked, You wish to remain a hippopotamus? Oh, forget this. I yelled angrily as I began chasing the pair down the road with a broomstick. If you come back here, I'll send me grandson after yous. I yelled at the top of my lungs as Honeydew and Beaker disappeared into the sunset. My grandson's name is Sonny, and he acts as my second-in-command at the oil company. Sonny is addicted to Cocoa Puffs and has been trying his best to get rid of his addiction by taking up a cycling hobby. Hasn't had much luck yet. I doubt he ever will. So sad. Back in the 1960s, Sonny and I traveled the Rub al Khali Desert for weeks upon weeks in search of oil. Texas tea. We both grown up poor on the streets of Empire Bay and were desiring to one day strike it rich. That's when we both found it. A huge oil spill located in the very center of the Rub al Khali. Oh, Gramps, we'll never get that, Sonny cried as I said evilly, Old Sonny can't resist the taste of Cocoa Puffs. I held the box of puffs close to Sonny's face as his face turned into a drill. I used Sonny to drill underground as we began collecting all the oil. 1 week later, my old company was built upon the foundations of a local disco club with Sonny becoming my second-in-command. I still often use Sonny's addiction to my advantage in order to exploit him for my own gains. Yes, I'm quite an arsehole. Can you blame me, really? No, you can't. Don't even try. Anyway, sorry for that incredibly long tangent. Now, as I said before, I am very miserable because even now I'm a millionaire. I have no real friends apart from Sonny. And even Sonny's just staying with me so he can keep making $1 million a day. That's just sick and wrong in my humble bumble opinion. Now, because of my depressive state, I've been spending a lot of time recently just chilling in my swimming pool, watching some cartoons like Futurama, SpongeBob SquarePants, Ed, Ed, and Eddie, The Simpsons, Courage, The Cowardly Dog, The Jetsons, so on and so forth. However, one show that I'd become extremely attached to in the last few months was none other than the Mickey Mouse. Just to be clear, my dearies, I'm talking about the 2013 Mickey Mouse series, not the awful and downright heartbreaking series that is Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. Rarely use that kind of language, especially when Sonny's around, but fuck that show, man! Moving on from my hatred toward Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, let's talk about the downright amazing 2013 series. Not only is it incredibly faithful to the old Mickey Mouse cartoons of the 30s and 40s, but it also has a certain level of charm to it, which it has successfully managed to maintain for a total of 94 episodes plus 2 specials. Hey, that's swell. The show is actually the sole reason I bought a subscription to Disney+. It's the only Disney show I actually care about. Recently came to my attention that Mickey Mouse was premiering the official Season 6 premiere. I was very excited to see it. Sadly, I had to spend the entire day of the premiere at my company. We were sorting out some problems with an unruly customer who smelled like tacos. "Give me some oil!" the customer yelled angrily as I responded with, "Oh, okay." I then proceeded to hand the customer a huge cup full of oil. The customer drank the oil down as he yelled, "Gotta go fast!" He then died, and I had him thrown in a nearby dustbin. Dustbins make your teeth go gray. That evening, I headed back to my super mansion and plopped down on my master bed in my master bedroom in order to never mind that. To view the official Series 6 premiere of Mickey Mouse. I had my tablet tight with my feathers as I scanned through the list of episodes until I reached the first episode of Series 6. The episode was called "You Can't Bank on Scrooge." The teaser picture for the episode had a picture of Scrooge McDuck getting thrown out of his mansion by 2 bulldog police officers. Beagle boys. The synopsis of the episode was, Scrooge McDuck ends up becoming bankrupt after Donald spreads rumors to the police. Scrooge then has to learn the hardships of working a normal job. I was even more excited to see it as Scrooge McDuck was my favorite character in the entire Mickey Mouse franchise. Sorry, Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. Maybe next time. Not wanting to wait any longer, I hastily clicked play on the episode as it began with a brief advertisement. I must admit, I found this rather confusing, as Disney Plus was supposed to be a commercial-free service. But I didn't mind, really. I was rather high on PG tips at the time anyway. The commercial had an Indian man sitting by a really dirty river as a small bottle floated by him. "What's that? A bottle?" the man proclaimed as he ran inside the river and picked up the bottle. He put his hand inside the bottle and pulled out a small sheet of paper. He looked at the paper and said, "The contents of a liver sausage will always be a mystery." The man then began busting out into a groovy dance which lasted for 2 hours straight. I wish I was joking. Don't believe me? Ask the dishes! They can sing, they can dance, after all, this is France. Ahem. Sorry about that, as you may have told me, and I forgot because I wasn't listening, but you might have realized I'm schizophrenic. Anyway, after that nonsense ended, the episode began with the title card, which read, "You Can't Bank on Scrooge." A hard picture of Scrooge McDuck's anus came on screen and scared the heck out of me. My feathers were even beginning to turn white. Oh, that was actually his face, not his anus. Well, that explains a lot. The episode then began with an outside view of McDuck Manor. Inside the house, Scrooge McDuck was shown sipping on cups of tea in his fancy living room. He was sitting with a small group of wealthy aristocrats. I certainly hope they weren't aristocrats. Aristocats? Ha! Anyway, Scrooge and the aristocrats were chatting about how much money they all have. "I say, Mr. Scrooge, how much money do you think you have currently?" one of the aristocrats asked, as Scrooge responded with, "Who the heck should I know?" Scrooge then took another sip from his cup of tea as a loud knock occurred at the front door of the manor. Duckworth answered the door, before getting rudely pushed out of the way as a large team of police officers stormed into the manor. They made their way inside the living room and grabbed Scrooge by his neck. "What the heck are you doing with me? Let me go!" Scrooge demanded as one of the officers responded with, "No can do, Mr. McDuck. I'm afraid you're under arrest for felony tax evasion and money laundering." "Money laundering? Tax evasion?" Scrooge asked, confused, as he was thrown inside a paddy wagon. "No, wait, I can explain," Scrooge cried as the wagon began to drive toward the Palace of Justice. At the Palace of Justice, Judge Claude Frollo revealed to Scrooge that Scrooge's nephew Donald had told the police that Scrooge owned a massive money-printing warehouse over on Mohawk Avenue. He was also heavily involved in money laundering. Donald then went on to tell the cops that Scrooge would sell his counterfeit money over to the Fawston family and make it into soap. Soap was banned in Mickey Mouse Land, so Scrooge was given 25 years in prison. But... Scrooge was cut off as he was dragged off to jail by 2 police officers. A time card then came on screen which read, 2 months later. Scrooge McDuck was shown leaving jail, having been let out early thanks to Mickey and Goofy bailing him out like bros. Mickey and Goofy had both come to see Scrooge after he was released. So, what are you going to do now, Mr. McDuck? Mickey asked as Scrooge responded with, First, I'm going to get my revenge on my nephew, and then I'm going to get my fortune back. Scrooge then turned to face Mickey and asked, Speaking of Donald, where is he? Mickey then laughed nervously while rubbing the back of his head. What's going on? Scrooge asked. It was Goofy who answered him by saying, Well, Mr. McDuck, with you rotting in jail, Donald took control of McDuck Manor. He's converted your money into bitcoins and is planning on building his very own castle on a hill. Scrooge then excused himself from the pair's company as he began walking down the streets in order to think about a plan of action. Scrooge sat down on a bench at the local park as he began to contemplate the entire thing in his head. Could Scrooge really be mad at his own nephew? Could he really sacrifice a family relationship just for the sake of getting his damn money back? No, he couldn't. Scrooge couldn't blame Donald, in all honesty. If Scrooge had been in Donald's shoes, he'd have done the exact same thing. Donald's plan, in a way, had been genius. Lie to the cops that his uncle was involved in criminal activity so they'd be able to inherit the mansion. Scrooge had to hand it to his dear nephew. He wasn't as dumb as he looked. No, sir, he absolutely positively was not. That's when Scrooge decided that he needed a job to help get his mind over the fact he lost all his money to Donald Duck. You know how it is. Scrooge managed to land a job at the local grocer's. The grocer's was run by a live-action man named Norris Fieldsworth. Scrooge quickly grew to despise Norris as he was constantly moaning about things that he didn't even need to moan about. Norris was constantly moaning about the quality of sweets that the shop sold. Just look at these monstrosities, Norris moaned before continuing with, What's wrong with midget gems and sherbet lemons? Norris was also constantly worrying about how much money the shop was losing on a daily basis as the grocers were robbed on a weekly basis, sometimes daily depending on the direction of the sun. Ha! One day a customer returned a bottle of milk to the store, complaining that it was way past its expiry date. Scrooge happily gave the customer a new bottle of milk along with a refund. That's when Norris appeared on the scene. You can't be giving out refunds, boy-o! Norris yelled angrily as Scrooge asked, Well, why not, if I may ask? Norris then proceeded to slap Scrooge across the face as he yelled, Have I taught you nothing, boy-o? We keep handing out refunds all willy-nilly, then we'll have no money left. Norris then slapped Scrooge across the face again, which proved to be the final straw for Scrooge. Scrooge got up from the floor and yelled, I've had enough! Scrooge then proceeded to beat the crap out of Norris. No joke. He beat Norris to a bloody pulp. He then threw Norris out the window as he yelled, And stay out! That's when Scrooge decided that perhaps it was time to get a new job. I paused the episode briefly and asked if Sonny had finished cooking us dinner. Sonny, you there? I asked. No response. I assumed he was probably out at local Tesco's trying to buy some more Cocoa Puffs. Well, his addiction, not mine. I went back to watching the program. However, the nagging worry was still there. Where was Sonny? Oh well. I pressed play again and saw that Scrooge had now gotten a job at Captain Hook's boat. Captain Hook owned a massive shelter for the homeless mice and ducks of Mickey Mouse Land. Scrooge was in charge of preparing soup for the mice and ducks to eat. Unlike Norris, Captain Hook was a much more intelligent and far less annoying boss. However, Hook did still have his fair share of problems, as he was very stingy and always kept bugging Scrooge about how much soup he gave out for dinner. However, Scrooge could understand Captain Hook's plight, as he didn't exactly have that much soup going around. However, one day, just like Norris, Captain Hook ended up pushing Scrooge's buttons too far when Scrooge discovered that Hook had been keeping leftover snowball for himself. "You greedy man!" Scrooge yelled as Hook asked, "What do you think you're doing in my office, Scrooge?" "This," Scrooge said, as he grabbed Captain Hook by the neck before proceeding to throw him out of the boat and into the river. Then a crocodile began tick-tocking toward Captain Hook, who yelled, "Smee!" Mr. Smee then came crashing down the river in a small rowing boat as he began riding off toward the sunset. Hook swam after Smee all the while getting chased down by the crocodile. Scrooge had finally had enough. He wanted his mansion back. He began driving the boat toward McDuck Manor. Arriving at McDuck Manor, Scrooge crashed the boat into the side of the mansion, which created a huge frickin' hole. Scrooge used the hole to gain entrance to the mansion, and inside of the mansion, Scrooge fought his way through waves upon waves of Donald's guards, who had once served Scrooge many moons ago. Ever play DuckTales for the NES or the remaster for, the computer or something? Kind of like that. Bouncing around with his cane. Scrooge eventually reached the master bedroom where he saw Donald just chilling playing GTA 5. Donald waved at Scrooge and asked, "What's going on, Uncle Scrooge?" Scrooge then sat himself down on the very edge of the bed as he gave Donald a very sinister glare. A glare so sinister that even Gordon Ramsay would be scared by it. "Why did you do it, Donald?" Scrooge asked as Donald responded with, "I want Uncle Scrooge." "Why did you sell me out to the police for a crime I didn't commit? Do you have any idea the kind of shit I've gone through these past few months?" Scrooge yelled very angrily at the very top of his lungs. Donald then sighed heavily as he began to explain his story to Scrooge. Basically, Donald always dreamed of becoming a millionaire, much like Scrooge had in his younger days. Donald had long since grown tired of living in a council house with Huey, Dewey, and Louie. He longed for something more than his provincial life. Was he going to ask Belle to be his wife? Ha! Only joking, friend. I can see you trying to hold back that mighty sailor chuckle. Well, keep holding it in, boy. I've just finished washing the carpet. Donald then went on to say that all he wanted was to drink hot chocolate whilst listening to Cliff Richard without the fear of his damn nephews annoying him all the time. For those unfamiliar with Cliff Richard, in England he was kind of like Elvis, except Elvis was even more popular in England than he was in America. Look it up. Scrooge then gave a small light sigh as he asked, "You really mean all that, Donald?" Donald laughed evilly as the doors of the master bedroom swung open as a large army of soldiers came in holding very powerful weapons. They all pointed their weapons towards Scrooge and asked, "Any last words, dirtbag?" "I love Kung Fu!" Scrooge sang as he was shot full of bullets by the soldiers. Scrooge then collapsed dead, covered in wimp rat juice, as Donald turned to face the screen and said, That's ahoy there in Donald Duck talk. The last screen of the episode was of Donald sipping on some hot chocolate in front of the fireplace. Cliff Richard could be heard playing on the radio as Donald said, With that, the episode ended with no credits. Instead, Disney Plus just shut itself off. I then heard a small murmuring noise from behind me. I turned around to see a weird boot which had eyes and a mouth. The boot said, "Hey there, Alistair." "Who on earth are you, Sonny Jim?" I asked, confused. "I'm the great bootleg leg," the boot proclaimed happily as I joked. "Sounds like a bunch of hot air to me." "Want to see something real bad?" the great bootleg asked as I responded with, "No." "Well, too bad," the great bootleg said, as it caused my tablet to start shaking violently. It eventually stopped as I grabbed it in order to take a look at what the so-called great bootleg had done to my beloved tablet. I switched it on, And I couldn't believe what I saw. The screen of the tablet showed my bank details. All my money had disappeared, and I now had $0 and 0 cents. All of the millions had long since disappeared. How incredibly tragic! How could I have been so foolish? Suddenly, the door to the master bedroom swung open as world-famous real estate agent Richard Beck came in. I was thrown onto the streets while Sonny was handed the keys by Beck. "It's yours, my friend," Beck said happily before making his leave. "Sonny, you gotta help me out," I cried, as unmoved Sonny responded with, "Nah." I was then chased down the streets by Sonny's guards. While running, I ended up running past Honeydew and Beaker, who were drinking tea at a local cafe. The pair pointed and laughed at me. Well, Honeydew pointed and laughed at me while Beaker just gave me the middle finger. After a while, the guards eventually gave up, and I began resting at the local library. That's when I realized I needed a job. Eventually managed to land a job at my local grocer's. My boss, who looked remarkably like Norris Fieldsworth, how's that for a coincidence, treated me like scum. It's very cringy, like some kind of Jake Paul. Also didn't have anywhere to live now, so I was forced to stay at Captain Hook's boat. Captain Hook charged people $1 a night to sleep on that boat. It was very smelly on the boat, and Captain Hook always serves fish and chips for breakfast. It's not even cooked very well either. He also always wakes you up at like 5 o'clock in the morning, before any other creature on this planet is woken up. That's just suck! One day I decided to see if I could possibly rent a house from Pig Homes. Pig Homes is a non-government funded service which provides easily affordable homes for less fortunate birds like myself. Made my way over to their headquarters and managed to rent a nice little condo just north of my old mansion. Sadly, problems began to arise when I quickly ran out of money to pay the rent. You see, you had to pay Pig Homes a small loan of $30 each and every week. Doesn't sound like that much, but trust me, when you're working at a grocer's, oh boy, 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 it is. Still waiting on that UBI, huh? Eventually I got a visit from my landlord, Mr. Piggy, who had 75% at Pig Homes. I tried my best to explain to Piggy that I had no money left in my account. This caused Mr. Piggy to yell, "Do you know what happens when you don't have any money?" I was cut off as Mr. Piggy threw me into a small cat carrier. "Now you work for me!" Mr. Piggy proclaimed as he took me outside towards his car. You lose. Oh boy! Mr. Piggy put me to work on one of his salt mines over on the outskirts of Hyrule. Mr. Piggy is a horrible little pig, if you don't mind me saying, friend. He has a horrid temper. If anyone refuses to do their work, Mr. Piggy hands the little fecker over to Big Smiley. That's true fear, isn't it, friend? Oh, Mr. Piggy mines salt, which he then sells on to Tesco or other supermarket chains. Mr. Piggy makes a killing from this and is able to use that money to buy houses. The houses are then put on sale for Pig Homes. Mr. Piggy and his boss, who's on the scheme, have made sure that the rent on the houses is so unaffordable that people are forced to work for Piggy at his salt mines. He owned about 10 salt mines which span across the entirety of Hyrule. Only Link can save me now. With all that salt, you could afford dinner. Huh. Perhaps I deserved all this cruelty in the world. And this cruelty in the end. After all I ever did when I had money was bitch and moan. So perhaps karma finally got to me. Working for Mr. Piggy isn't so bad, as he always thanks us profusely for all our hard work. However, just like Scrooge McDuck, I'm beginning to contemplate getting revenge on my piece of shit grandson. Stole everything from me. Last I heard, Sonny had just taken a private jet to Vice City. Bastard! Probably snitched on me to the police just like Donald did to Scrooge in that episode. Oh, I've got to go now, friend. For I've got some scheming to do. Or rather,
Join me, friend, and I will make your face the greatest in Korodai, or else you will die.